I think that the lowest hanging fruit for biogas is really landfill gas. And this is just an EPA map showing some of the current and future possible sites for landfill gas. This is my least favorite option because it's the least efficient. You only capture about 10% of the organic material in landfill gas. It's basically dumping all the organic material in a hole in the ground, I'm going to be very crude, but sticking a pipe in the ground and capturing some of it. Okay? Really inefficient. That's just not the way to do anything. On the other hand, since we have this organic material in landfills, we should be capturing what's there. But this is not a renewable source of energy. I already went through that. So Germany has really led the way in terms of research into biogas and how much energy you can get from various feedstocks. Of course, the more digested the feedstock is, the lower its energy content. So things like manure are down at this end. You get very little energy back out of those, but that's still an important recovery of energy from a waste stream. You can get fairly good efficiency from dedicated energy crops, but then again, you have to make decisions about sustainability. Cleaning up the biogas can be expensive. The Germans, I think, have pretty much split their bets on this between water scrubbing and pressure swing absorption. These are just two different methods with different costs. Trying to then feed the gas into the natural gas grid. So, okay, I have to finish here. This cost of upgrading affects the profitability, and that's why we haven't seen a large adoption. Germany, however, has kind of incentivized that cost difference with very high feed-in tariffs. So Germany, Italy, and the UK are right now the leaders in biogas technology, and they also have the highest feed-in tariffs for the gas. They've also required that the infrastructure is in place. Unlike the US, which is lacking a lot of infrastructure in the West, in Germany, most of the anaerobic digestion units are within 5 miles of a pipeline, and the gas company is required to build out a pipeline to the digester unit as part of the deal. So Germany has embraced biogas. The UK is now moving in that direction. And so has Asia. So the largest biogas digesters are in India and China right now. These are huge facilities powered by very central agricultural systems and quite successful. So what we see if we compare the markets in the EU, the US, and Asia is that the EU is really transitioning to a mature technology, sort of like the stories we heard earlier where they're leading the way on this. We're really moving, we're still in the early adopter stage. And when I went to the biogas meeting earlier this year, there was a lot of frustration from the European contingent because they just felt like we're missing the boat. Here's a waste mitigation strategy, it's clean energy, and it's known technology. What's the holdup? And Asia is coming online with this. So again, just to wrap up, I think biomass has an important role for renewable energy. It may be a small one for the electricity market compared to the fuel market, but I think it can be very important because it is a stable source and it can do this load balancing problem until you guys get the storage and smart grid problem solved for us. And it's available now, it's here, and it can mitigate some other problems for us. The other thing is that it really relies on local renewable feedstocks, so it can support the rural infrastructure that's been faltering. I just one more note, a little story. I like to call this the Pixley Poo incident. This is a biomass plant, but Calgren Renewables biofuel plant in California. It's a plant that's up and running. It's a first generation biofuels plant. And they wanted to take manure from the local dairy industry, anaerobically digest it, and power their plant with it. And they have had no end of conflict with the local community over this. There's no clear reason I can see as to why that would be a bad idea. The manure is currently going into a large lagoon. It's sitting there. It smells wonderful. It's reeking methane out into the atmosphere, and it's not being used. And yet there's opposition. And this opposition, we feel, is just emotional response, and it's not based on any kind of scientific knowledge. We see the same thing for biomass electricity plants. There's been renewed resistance to this. April this year, there was a one-year moratorium in Washington on biomass electricity. So Evergreen State College totally renewable electricity portfolio. They wanted to replace their natural gas with biomass gasifier, and they cannot do that. They've lost millions in state funding. And Massachusetts has had protests. They want a 3-year moratorium on biomass. And so, you know, I think it's interesting that there's just not a lot of support for this in the scientific community. Instead, it's coming from emotional response of, we just don't want to see anything change. Exactly. So when we look at the policy supports for this, the renewable fuel standard was mentioned. That's sort of this bar out here where we're trying to really pull technology forward. We really don't see that for biomass electricity. I think you could argue whether you really need it. I think it fills enough niches as it is. Okay, thank you.